Hey, what's up, guys? BSG Trek Fan 88 here. Actually, you know what? Screw it. For those of you that don't know, even though if you've been watching my videos, you should know by now, my name is Ryan. I live in Plymouth, Massachusetts. I'm 24 years old, and this year, on April 15th, 2012, I am going to see Titanic in IMAX. Yes, I am going to drive to a T-stop. For those of you that don't know, in the Boston area, T is our local metro. I'm going to spend the gas money, I'm going to go and spend $15 on a ticket, and I'm going to see a movie that's 15 years old and has already made, adjusted for inflation, what, $2.5 billion? I mean, it made almost as much as Avatar did last year, a couple years ago. Why am I doing this? Well, number one, I'm a sucker for history. I can remember ever since 3rd grade, when I first learned of the Titanic with a social studies project, I've always been fascinated by it. And not just because of the movie. I mean, the movie really elevated the ship to how people think of it today. But I appreciate it for its history. You know, at the time, it was the largest ship ever built, and really is quite something even by today's standards. You know, it's on its maiden voyage, it had famous people on it, it was Captain Smith's last voyage before he was retiring. It was deemed unsinkable with technology that was great, but just wasn't utilized properly. So I've always loved the Titanic. You know, a lot of people have come down on this movie being re-released in 3D as James Cameron wanting to make money. The guy has more money than any of us do, and I don't think he needs the money. He's doing it because he's the creator of the film. He owns it, and technically the studio owns it, but it's his. Just like every movie he makes, he puts more heart and soul into it than any other director, with the exception of maybe Peter Jackson. I'm not even going to put Steven Spielberg up there. Steven Spielberg used to. Jaws, Indiana Jones, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T. Ever since the mid-90s, though, he's kind of tapered off. I'll throw Saving Private Ryan in. I mean, if you watch any of the documentaries on any of James Cameron's films, he's known as a hard-ass every now and then because he cares about his films, but I mean, if you look at Avatar, I guess he went, I think it was a whole year without a day off. Like, literally, he was doing something every single day, except Christmas, I think. The man just puts so much time and effort into his films. Details, editing. He's involved in every single process of his film. He cares about it so much. And it shows. I mean, I don't care who you are. People hate the movie, and, oh, I hate the love story, whatever. If you sit down and you watch Titanic and you just look at the set design, granted, it was 1997, you could only do so much with CG, but even, I think if he made the film today, I think at least 90% of what you saw on screen would still be a set. You know, he went and made sure that even the china, the plates that they ate off of in that one dining room scene, which lasted, what, 10 minutes, was accurate. I mean, down to the type of wood that they used in the floors to make the deck was the same wood that the Titanic used. It's just obviously newer. I mean, I could go on for hours on why I think James Cameron is a great director. Some of you are going to disagree with me. Some of you will agree with me. But the final fact, in my opinion, remains that Titanic is one of the greatest films of all time. It's an epic of, well, I'm not going to say of proportions, but you get the idea. You know, the acting, the theatrical score, which is, you know, me being a soundtrack guy, I absolutely love. The writing, the way the film is shot. The cinematography is probably my favorite thing about the film itself. Also, a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the wide shots of the ship that you see are actually based off of paintings done by the guy who did this book, Ken Marshall, who's known as one of the top Titanic historians out there right now living. So, why am I going to see it in 3D? I saw it 3 times when it came out back in '97. I saw it with my family, I saw it with some friends, and then I think our school did like a field trip to go to the movie theater to see it. Why? I have no idea. It's the only field trip I've ever had going to a movie, but maybe they saw the historical significance. But to say that I've seen the movie, I've seen it. You know, I've watched it numerous times at home. I'm actually going to try something. I'm going to figure out how long after the ship hits the iceberg in the movie it stays afloat, and if it's the same time that the actual Titanic stayed afloat, I'm going to try and time the movie on April 14th to start at a certain time. So when the ship sinks in the movie at, what was it, like 2:05 a.m. or something like that on April 15th, I'm going to try and time it so on the 100th anniversary of the ship sinking, it's timed in the movie. Call me crazy for doing it, but I'm a postal worker. I'm off that Sunday anyway, so I might as well do it. I mean, it's the 100th anniversary. I mean, that's pretty big. I mean, over 1,500 people lost their lives on that ship, and that's still a lot of people, even by today's standards, with the wars that have been fought, and the natural disasters, and of course terrorist attacks. But anyway, why am I going to see it? If I'm going to watch it 12 hours or so earlier. Like I said before, the amount of detail and care that went into making that film. I, being 24 now, it was 15 years ago, so what? I was 9, 10 years old when I first saw it. I'd like to see it on the big screen with an adult, demeanor, an adult maturity to myself. I'd like to hear the movie on the big screen, on an IMAX screen. I'd also like to see how James Cameron did the 3D retouch of the film. Now, he said in interviews that he didn't mess with the film at all. He didn't change anything. I actually like that he talked about it, because he does admit that there are some things about the way the ship sank and a couple other minor things that he would change if he could. But unlike another director, Star Wars, he decided to leave it be. He said that he made the film the way it was. It was a success it was a success the way it was, and it's going to stay the way it was, which is fine with me. But if there's one guy that can do 3D right, it's James Cameron. Now, me personally, being a big movie buff, I don't like the fact that they are releasing so many goddamn 3D movies that are unnecessary. Now, I'm not talking about movies that are filmed in 3D or developed for 3D. I'm talking about, within the past 2 years, a lot of films that they were just going to release. They halted, or they sped up the 3D making of it, as in they went back and they retouched it, and aftermarket 3D. I forget the correct term right now, but it wasn't filmed in 3D. They just used computers to do it, like Titanic. But unlike the more recent films that they've released that look like shit or don't matter, or there's no benefit to the 3D, as the Cinema Snob would say. Go check them out, by the way, cinemasnob.com, if you want to see some really great videos of old films that really aren't that great. I can't really talk about it right now because there's too much to talk about, because the Cinema Snob is so great. There you go, Brad Jones. Plug for you. Unlike the films that they've been releasing, Titanic has been in development for over a year and a half. So literally people have been sitting in a room, or a couple of rooms for all I know, for a year and a half working on a 3-hour and 10-minute film, or 194 minutes, so however many hours that is. If anybody can do 3D, it's Jim Cameron. I mean, look at what he did with Avatar. A lot of people criticized Avatar for not being original. I think that, number one, Hollywood's full of fucking remakes. I mean, they're redoing RoboCop and they're redoing Total Recall. 2 science fiction classics, 2 science fiction greats. Hell, the weapons from those movies are on my shirt. Those films do not need to be remade. Those films should not be remade. And I think it's a big mistake. And I will probably not give the studio my money because of that. Will I see them eventually? Maybe. But anyway, I'm going beyond the point. If anybody can do it, Jim Cameron can. I mean, the 3D with Avatar and the time he took with that is amazing. So hopefully Titanic will look very impressive in 3D. If anything, it's been digitally remastered. I mean, the movie is 15 years old. It aged well, but you can kind of tell in a couple of shots that, yeah, this movie's getting up there in age. The audio has been redesigned for a Dolby Digital environment of today's technology. I mean, 15 years ago they had Dolby Digital, but it's advanced a lot. And of course, being on a big giant IMAX screen, we're going to hear and see all that wonderful detail of the ship and its interior and the CG and all that fun stuff. So I am going to go and pay money to see a film that I own on 2 different formats and have seen multiple times, because it's one of the few films that I'll do that to. Hopefully I'll be able to give you guys a vlog when I get back from it. On a side note, it's an emotional movie. I've seen it many times, and I'm not going to say I cry at it, but it's sad at the end. I mean, even though I've seen it before. So anyway, yes, I'm going to see Titanic in 3D. No, I have no reservations about it. There's also something about seeing the film on the 100th anniversary, which I find appealing. It comes out April 4th in North America. I don't even know if any of you guys watching me are from other countries, but it comes out April 4th in the U.S. I'm going to check the movie times right now, but there's nothing updated online. Hopefully, I would severely doubt it would not be shown on April 12th. But studios and movie theater companies are stupid anyway, so it wouldn't surprise me if they were like, yeah, no, we're only going to put it in theaters for a couple weeks. Now, I'm pretty sure, to be blunt about it, they're going to milk it for all it's worth. Going back real quick, he's only doing it to make more money. Do you really think he would take up his precious time from going to the bottom of the Marianas Trench and researching other things to redo a movie that's 15 years old and care about money first and foremost? I don't think so. Anyway, this is Ryan, BSG Trek Fan 88. Just a quick rant or vlog. If you have the time and care about the world of cinema and just appreciate good movies or some of the things that I've spoken about, might want to think about going to see Titanic in 3D. If anything, if you can, see it on the big screen. I know that in some cities they're not going to show it in 3D. They are, but the theater next door, which isn't 3D, will also be running it. So if you can, go see it, and leave a comment. What you think. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Do you agree with me or disagree? Feel free. Yeah. Have a good night.